All right, welcome everyone to the latest episode of Shannon Reads 1099 Instructions. And as promised, we are going to be covering the 1099 NEC box 1 today, which is the primary box that you need to be aware of with the 1099 NEC. All right, so here we go. Specific instructions for 1099 NEC, which is on page 7 of the 1099 instructions for the miscellaneous and NEC are combined. So we'll go back to the beginning of the instructions for the 1099 NEC. So you file a Form 1099 NEC non-employee compensation for each person in the course of your business to whom you have paid the following during the year: at least $600 in services performed by someone who is not your employee, including parts and materials, cash payments for fish or other aquatic life that you purchase from anyone engaged in the trade or business of catching fish, payments made to an attorney. And there's more instructions on that a little bit later. And you must also file a Form 1099 NEC for each person from whom you have withheld any federal income tax reported in box 4 under the backup withholding rules regarding the amount of the payment. Caution: be sure to report each payment in the proper box because the IRS uses this information to determine whether the recipient has properly reported the payment. Also, another caution: make sure that you don't over-report somebody's income because the IRS, so say a payment was made with a debit card, a credit card, PayPal for business, or any other payment that was run through a merchant service account. If those payments also get reported on a 1099 NEC, you are effectively doubling the recipient's income because those payments belong on a 1099-K. And so which is a form, that a 1099 form that the payment processors put out. And so you report only for trade or business reporting only. So anything that you purchase personally does not go on a 1099 NEC, even if it's something that you reimburse yourself for later. But it's very important that you only purchase for a business, for your business through a business account and not a personal account. So you report on 1099 NEC only when payments are made in the course of your trade or business. Personal payments are not reportable. You are engaged in a trade or business if you operate for gain or profit. However, nonprofit organizations are considered to be engaged in a trade or business and are subject to reporting requirements. Other organizations subject to reporting requirements include trusts of qualified persons as pensions. I need to learn how to read if I'm going to have a channel called Shannon Reads. All right, so other organizations subject to reporting requirement include trust of qualified pension or profit sharing plans of employers. Certain organizations are exempt from tax under Section 501C or 501D. Farmers cooperatives that are exempt from tax under Section 521 and widely held fixed investment trusts. Payments by federal, state, or local government agencies are also reportable. Exceptions: some payments do not have to be reported on a Form 1099 NEC, although they may be taxable to the recipient. Payments for which a Form 1099 NEC is not required include all of the following. Generally, payments to a corporation, including a limited liability company that is treated as a C or S corporation. Payments for merchandise, telegrams, telephone, freight, storage, and similar items Payments of rent to real estate agents or property managers. However, the real estate agent or property manager must use a Form 1099 miscellaneous to report the rent paid over to the property owner. See the regulation section. And it lists out the sections here. Wages to employees. Report those on a Form W-2 wage and tax statement. Military differential wage payment made to employees while they're on active duty in the armed forces or other uniformed services, report those on a W-2. Business travel allowances paid to employees. And it says it may be reportable on the Form W-2. There's special rules around that, and we'll cover those when I'm reading the W-2 instructions. Business travel allowances paid to employees. I just said that one. I'm not doing, maybe I shouldn't do these on the weekends, you guys. This doing it at Saturday is kind of screwing me up here, I guess. Cost of current life insurance protection, report that on a Form W-2 or a Form 1099-R. Distribution from pensions, annuities, retirement, or profit sharing plans, IRAs, insurance contract. Payments to a tax exempt organization, including tax exempt trusts, IRAs, HSAs, Archer MSAs, Cloverdale ESAs, and Able 529A accounts. The United States, the District of Columbia, a U.S. possession, or a foreign government. Payments made to homeowners from the HFA Hardest Hit Fund or similar state program get reported on a Form 1098-MA. Compensation for injuries or sickness by the Department of Justice as a public safety officer, disability or survivor's benefit, or under state program that provides benefits for surviving dependents of a public safety officer who has died as a direct and proximate result of personal injuries sustained in the line of duty. Compensation for wrongfully incarcerated or any criminal offense for which there was a conviction under federal or state law. See Section 139F, certain amounts received by wrongfully incarcerated individuals. Form 1099-K, payments made with credit card or payment card and certain other types of payments, including third-party network transactions, must be reported on a 1099-K by the payment settlement entity under Section 6050W and are not subject to reporting on Forms 1099 NEC. And there is a completely separate set of instructions for a Form 1099-K. Fees paid to informers. A payment to an informer is an award fee or a reward for information about criminal activity and does not have to be reported if the payment is made by a federal, state, or local government agency or by a nonprofit organization exempt from tax under Section 501c3 that makes the payment to further the charitable purpose of lessening the burdens of the government. For more information, see Regulation Section 1.6041-3I. Do not use Form 1099 NEC to report scholarship or fellowship grants. Scholarship or fellowship grants that are taxable to the recipient because they are paid for teaching, research, or other services as a condition for receiving the grant are considered wages and must be reported on a Form W-2. Other taxable scholarship or fellowship payments to a degree or non-degree candidate do not have to be reported to the IRS in any form unless Section 6050S requires reporting of such amounts by an educational institution on Form 1098-T tuition statement. Difficulty of care payments. Do not use Form 1099 NEC to report difficulty of care payments that are excluded from the recipient's gross income. Difficulty of care payments or foster care providers are not reportable if paid for fewer than 11 children under age 19 and fewer than 6 individuals aged 19 or older. See section 131C. Amounts paid for more than 10 children or more than 5 other individuals are reported on the form 1099 NEC. Certain Medicaid waiver payments may be excludable from income as difficulty of care payments. For more information, see Notice 2014-7 available on the IRS website, and Medicare waiver payments, frequently asked questions, available also on the irs.gov website. Canceled debt. A canceled debt is not reportable on Form 1099 NEC. Canceled debts reportable under Section 6050P must be reported on Form 1099C. See the instructions for Forms 1099A and 1099C. Reportable payments to corporations. The following payments made to corporations generally must be reported on Form 1099 NEC. Fish purchases for cash, attorney fees, payments by a federal executive agency for services, they're all reported in box 1. Federal executive agencies may also have to file a Form 8596 information return for federal contracts and Form 8596A quarterly transmittal of information returns for federal contracts if a contracted amount for personal services is more than $25,000. See Rev Rule 2003-66, which is on page 1115 of Internal Revenue Bulletin 2003-26 at the irs.gov publication section for details. Wow, that's a lot of information, and we haven't even really gotten to the actual box 1 part. So we've covered a lot of different things that where you do not report on a 1099 NEC because it's reportable someplace else. And I think the biggest thing that I see happening, at least in the community right now, is there is a ton of misinformation and confusion regarding the 1099K and what payments get reported there and what we have to report on a 1099 NEC. So the big thing is cash and cash equivalent is the only thing that we report on a 1099 NEC, and payments for services to people other than actual W-2 employees. All right, and payments to attorneys get really confusing because some payments to attorneys go on a 1099 miscellaneous and some go on a 1099 NEC. So the payments that get paid to an attorney on a 1099 NEC are payments that you make to an attorney to provide legal services, go on a 1099 NEC box 1. Payments made to an attorney for gross proceeds are reported on a box on 1099 miscellaneous box 10, which we haven't covered yet, but we'll be covering that again really soon. And attorneys have a big exception here. It doesn't matter if they're a corporation, an LLC, it really doesn't matter what their entity type is. If it's an attorney, you send a 1099, either a 1099 miscellaneous box 10 or a 1099 NEC box 1. I am not really sure why that rule is in place, but it has been a rule for as long as I've been doing 1099s that attorneys get a 1099 regardless of their entity type. tax identification numbers. To report payments to an attorney on a 1099 NEC, you must obtain an attorney's tax ID number. You may use Form W-9, request a taxpayer identification number and certification to obtain the attorney's TIN. An attorney is required to promptly supply its TIN, whether it's a corporation or other entity, but the attorney is not required to certify its TIN. So what I see a lot is on every single invoice that an attorney sends out, it provides its tax ID number. And it's very rare that I will see a invoice from an attorney that does not have the attorney's TIN on it. So we do not have to get a W-9 from an attorney. We just have to know what their tax ID number is. They don't have to certify under penalty of fraud that is the correct tax ID number. But when we're dealing with other businesses and individuals who we are providing a 1099 to, we have to get a W-9 because everybody else has to certify that the information that they're providing you is accurate under penalty of perjury and penalty of fraud. Fish purchases. If you are in the trade or business of purchasing fish for resale, you must report the total cash payments of $600 or more paid during the year to any person who is engaged in the trade or business of catching fish. Report these payments in box 1. If you are required to keep records showing the date and the amount of each cash payments during the year, but you must report only the total amount paid for the year on Form 1099 NEC. So you have to keep a record of all the cash payments with the date and the amount, and that needs to be provided under certain circumstances, but does not have to accompany the 1099 NEC. Just the total that was paid during the year needs to go with the 1099 NEC. Fish means all fish and other forms of aquatic life. Cash means US and foreign coin and currency, and a cashier's check, bank draft, traveler's check, or money order. Cash does not include check drawn on your personal or business account. So see, there's a little bit of an exception. For fish, if you're buying fish, you don't have to send a 1099 if you write a check. But if you pay for cash or money order, bank draft, or any other form of non-check payment, you need to provide a 1099 NEC for fish. Employee business expense reimbursements do not go on a Form 1099 NEC. Report payments made to employees under a non-accountable plan as wages on the Form W-2. Generally, payments made to employees under an accountable plan are not reportable on Form W-2, except in certain cases where you pay a per diem or mileage allowance. For more information, read the instructions for the W-2. Independent contractor or employee. Generally, you must report payments to an independent contractor on Form 1099 NEC Box 1. Transit passes and parking for individual contractors. Although you cannot provide qualified transportation fringes to independent contractors, the working condition and de minimis fringe rules for transit passes and parking apply to independent contractors. Tokens or fare cards that enable an independent contractor to commute on public transportation system, not including privately operated van pools, are excludable from the independent contractor's gross income and are not reportable on the Form 1099 NEC if their value in any month is $21 or less. However, if the value of the pass provided in a month is greater than $21, the full value is part of the gross income and must be reportable on Form 1099 NEC. The value of parking may be excludable from an independent contractor's gross income and therefore not reportable on Form 1099 NEC if certain requirements are met. Director's fees. You must report director's fees and other remuneration, including payments made after retirement on Form 1099 NEC in the year paid. Report them in box 1. Commissions paid to lottery ticket sales agent. A state that has control over and responsibility for online and instant lottery games must file a Form 1099 NEC to report commissions paid, whether directly or indirectly, to licensed sales agents. For example, State X retains control over and liability for online and instant lottery games. For online ticket sales, State X pays commission by allowing an agent to retain 5% of the ticket proceeds. The agent remits to State X. For instant ticket sales, State X pays commissions by providing tickets to the agent for 5% less than the proceeds to be obtained by the agent for the sale of those tickets. If the commission for the year totals $600 or more, they must be reported in box 1 of Form 1099 NEC. Payments made on behalf of another person. For payments reportable under section 6041, if you make a payment on behalf of another person who is the source of the funds, you may be responsible for filing Form 1099 NEC. You are the payer for information reporting purposes if you perform management or oversight functions in connection with the payment or have a significant economic interest in the payment, such as a lien. For example, a bank that provides financing to a local or to a real estate developer for a construction project maintains an account for which it makes payments for services in connection with the project. The bank performs management and oversight functions of the payments and is responsible for filing information returns for payments of $600 or more paid to contractors. So this is one that I had to deal with a lot when I was doing bookkeeping, because I worked with a lot of contractors, and the bank managed the payments, and so we didn't have to keep track of the payments that were being made by the bank. We would have to put in the request that the subcontractors got paid, but we did not make those payments, even though they came out of a line of credit that was the bank put a lien and did not release the payments until certain construction objectives were met. So we did not include those payments on the 1099s to our subcontractors. We only made 1099s in the amount that we actually paid out of our checking account to the subcontractors. And the bank was then responsible for sending a 1099 to the same contractors for payments that they received or that were made to the contractors out of the line of credit. I'm going to stop this recording here because I try to keep them under 20 minutes, and I think I might have gone over 20 minutes on this one, but there's a lot of information. So I'll come back to this a little bit later today. Thank you.